Hello and welcome everybody to today's episode of What If Civilization Started Over in Europe. Previously, we've had multiple events happen, especially with what's happened all the way over here and what's happened in Europe. So now we will begin to do several things that will become a little awkward to all the other communities in Europe, but not to France, as they have been planning this for a very long time. As now we will begin to see the Koreans fight the Chinese, as this was a very long time coming for them, and they had planned the invasion for a very long time. So now we will see the Koreans instantly go up against their border, and not only had they been planning this for a while, but the French have also been planning on expanding their borders over here, which we will see that come into effect after they will quickly take over all of these areas right around this. But sadly, they cannot gain all of this area as the Koreans want a little bit of this too. So we'll just see the French just claiming all of this, and the rest will just simply go over to the Koreans. As if we just go ahead and select the color, we can just do that. Now, all the way over here, on the other hand, the Chinese nations over here had actually been planning this in case this had ever happened. This major city right along the border right here is very close, along with several other major cities that are within their grasp of their military. But we will see several nations answer the call of the Chinese. We will see the both of the Chinese nations be in support of other nations joining. We will see the green Mongolian country right here, and we'll in fact even see Central Asia right there even join. But on the Koreans, we will also see the Tibetans join on the side of the Koreans, and no other nation will be joining except for maybe a few other nations that are on the side, but that's going to be for the future of the war. But we will begin to see the Chinese claim all these areas down over here, which will look like this after they will swiftly take over 3 major cities and more as they will continue to move on their own Korean territory. Now we will see the Central Asians quickly begin to move into these territories. They will not take much, except for around one major city, as this major city all the way over here has been taken over by the Mongolians. As the Mongolians have a bunch of population near their own country, specifically around this little lake area right there, so they will swiftly annex several territories that seem to be very rebellious to the Koreans. So, in fact, that would actually help out the Koreans instead of harming them, as the rebellious territories are just being handed over. Now, taking off the city, we can look at the religion layer, and we can select all of the Korean territories. And as you can see, there are a bunch of countries that do not like the Koreans, but there are a bunch more that are on the side of the Koreans. So if I just game program, come on. Thank you. But now, as you can see, there are a bunch of territories over here that are underneath the Korean rule, that are underneath the Chinese religious system. But we'll see that quickly switch as we'll see the Korean religion execute several Chinese major areas in the Korean and the Japanese Isles. After the aftermath, it will simply look something like this. So yeah, they'll just swiftly get rid of them, which now they can focus back onto the countries that they are invading. And now we will see the Koreans amp up their invasion speed at this point where they will reach around this much territory, and now they're trying to take a bunch of naval territory away from them. Which seems like a good thing until you realize that the Chinese Navy has been building up for around right here, all the way around these areas over there. So it's become very clear to the Koreans that they need to figure out something quick before their entire country has a chance to die. or not become an empire anymore and just become a regional power that could be puppeted by the Chinese. Or call some several other allies to join in where you can fund in a rebellion in the southern region over here, which let me just bring up previous borders with the Chinese. This is what the southern Chinese used to look like, and based on what we have knowledge of, we can basically conclude that they would have controlled this area and a little bit more of all these other countries or all of the other regions where they could just gain over here and gain some over here, which they would heavily like, but this is basically the administration of the southern Chinese. The administration of the northern Chinese controls the north. And now we can focus back onto the actual war scenario that we have going on. And we see the landing of this little peninsula down here. I do not know what it's called, but I do not plan on knowing right now because we are seeing the massive Korean invasion of the Chinese, and now you can see that they're moving south into Taiwan, which now after swiftly taking over and annexing those simple territories, we will actually see the Koreans make another huge landing all the way over here, which had several plans out. There was going to be one all the way up here, but that ended up failing, and this was one of the only successful ones, except for this little minor one down over here, which gained a little bit of territory, which now they will just link up with each other. After the successful capitulation of this little territory away from the Chinese, there's now basically two-front war, but all the way up here, we will continue to see the Chinese have their invasions planned out very successfully, actually, despite being a very low power compared to them. Now we will see some interesting things happen between the French and the Koreans, as now there's a little bit of military fighting over here, as like there's some differences between the two. We're like, oh, we don't like you, so we're just gonna push through right there. We're like, we don't like you, we're gonna push through right here. So yeah, you can kind of get the gist where now the French military is not liking, we're not taking a huge liking to the Koreans, as they want to control all of this territory, but the Koreans also want to control all of this territory. But the French will soon come in and say, you should not be fighting each other, there's something else going on in hand. Which now we will continue to see the Koreans move further south, and to their unexpectancy, a rebellion appears. Yeah. After all of this rebellion appears, we will continue to see the Korean military hold on to these regions of southern China. But the rebellion kind of doesn't go as well, as we actually see a bunch of Chinese troops actually control a lot of this territory. And actually, it's been proven to every other country that the southern Chinese have been seen as a lesser minority compared to what they would be seen as a sovereign nation. So they're like, we don't like you anymore, so we're just gonna just boom, boom. Yeah. So they've fully made a full rebellion, and yeah, the southern Chinese will just capitulate into looking something like this, where they'll just completely surrender, and we'll actually see all these other regions over here are filed over to these countries occupying the area, as we actually see the Koreans not really care about this territory right there. So now, peace treaty time. I know I sound a little weird right now, but who cares? But now we'll begin to move on to the peace treaty, where we will see the Koreans completely make a takeover, but also lose quite a bit of land in the process. Because after the fight with the Chinese and with the fight of Central Asia and Mongolia, that kind of put them off on hold, where it kind of didn't make them feel good. But other than that, we will see the complete capitulation and these other areas completely falling over to the Chinese and to the Koreans, which they've made a deal where they would not attack each other. Now, this is the for sure borders that I've made, and since Vietnam didn't join the war, then that means they didn't get much land or any land at all, as they are actually quite happy with what they have, except for a few rebellious territories, like, for example, let me just highlight it. It's going to be in a lighter color of this. This and these territories over here are extremely rebellious, but there are several regions that are not. For example, this little island right here, or these several islands, which are not as rebellious, but they still are. There's not quite as much lift compared to these several thousand islands compared to other regions. And there are even some regions down here that are not as rebellious as right here, for example, completely like modernized. So yeah, city layer. Yeah, you can kind of see this. These 6 major cities right here are completely modernized. But now we're going to focus back onto the peace treaty, which I will just go ahead and do right around now. Alright, it just came back from the peace treaty that I just made. Sorry for how it was sounding earlier, but this is what the peace treaty is going to look like. And as you can tell, China has been shut down instantly, as they had initially controlled all of these regions, including some others. But now we will see the complete fall of the northern Chinese, which is now just China. And then we will see few countries reappear and new countries appear, as we will see the puppet state of China for Korea, and then we see, I don't know, these other 2 countries, which this country, by the way, this red country right here, this one, we will actually see this country that I used to originate all the way from over here will now move a little bit east. So now they're core Chinese territory. Yay. But now we will see the original Chinese come back, and let me just find their capital real quick. Alright, so I actually found out that their original capital used to be like right there. But now since the Chinese government right here decided to take it, we will see them make this their capital city. No. This maybe? This. Yeah. And yeah, the Koreans, they'll take this amount of territory right up there, which is right in their alley, as they kind of make old borders reappear. This isn't the like old borders, but this is like World War One borders. As yeah, they reached kind of far. As if we just include these 2 countries, make sure they don't have it. Yep. Okay. And we just copied and pasted them here. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, they would be a very giant country, as this used to be all Chinese. And if we like take off this, yeah, this used to be all Chinese, which also makes you realize that this green country used to be a lot bigger. But yeah, enough about that. We're just gonna go change this there. But yeah, all the way over here, we will actually see the French just take this, and yeah, their colony just disappears. Along with this area over here, which is completely Korean now. Um, all the way over here, on the other hand, the Central Asians and the Tibetans. The Tibetans, since they are heavily neutral, and I believe they do not have any military. Nope, they do not. This stuff. Not what I was saying a second ago, but we will see these Central Asians make a very huge amount take a very huge amount of land, and they're going to take around this much territory. Though it does not seem like much, it is actually growing their country by a lot. That even includes the Mongols, the Mongolians, as they had doubled, if not tripled, their country size. Tibetans, they'll add a little bit portion, which is around like 10% of their land that has been added to their country. Yeah, if the Chinese united right now, they would look like this, which is still looking very weird to me. But anyways, moving on to these events over here. we will see the full joining of the Greeks. After saying, no, we wanted to be part of your partnership or whatever, fine, we will join and begin a coalition against the Iranians. Aha, thought y'all would thought I would give spoilers. No, we're just gonna move on over here where we will see the Greeks lose a lot of territory from the French, and also due to the World Committee thing gone, we see all the rules that had been placed by the French and other security councils be disabled. We're now, yeah, there's no more rules. So Prussia, Poland, begin your expansion into Belgium, into the Belgiums, as they will quickly begin to move into these 6 major cities, going all the way up to 8. Which now the French are like, hold up, you can't do that. But the Polish, they're saying, no, we can, and you can't boss us around anymore because you are not our dad. I'm actually sorry to tell you, Poland, you're adopted. So that makes you unofficial, not their dad. But oh, that very similar to the French borders real life. Anyways, we will continue to see the French move all the way up here, where now they're planning a little bit of an invasion plan. Let's start off with the Polish. The Polish, they want to take away all of these areas all the way up here. So they want to take around this much, and then circle around down here. 1, 2, and then the French, and then they want to do like something like this, where they want to completely cut off the French, and that would be 3. This would be 4 right over here, and this would be 5. So yeah, they got a 5-step invasion plan, and here's the French. Going up. Yeah, that's it. Now we will see the Polish quickly in activating their plan, but it was a little early for them to activate it or a little bit late, as they had not expected the French to do this. So they're just starting to rush through, which the French see this and they're like, oh, we should rush through too. So they like fully disappear. Peace treaty time? You guessed it. Alright. Peace treaty time, just game over, and the Belgians, they don't exist anymore. After being a very brief country within several episodes, they're just gone. As the French will take over the smallest majority and the least populous land. And since the Polish got to the capital first and was rushing through and got all these territories, they kind of just anecdote that. Hey, that reminds me of a different Germany. Anyways, let's move on to the little situation down over here where there's a little bit of a conflict between these two. Because the Hungarians, they claim all the way light red, light red, light red. The Hungarians, they claim all the way down over here, saying this would be our core territory, or like saying like we deserve around this much territory because it would make us look better and make us even more powerful. And we'll actually see the Greeks jump in on this, saying we deserve this amount of territory because this is used to be our territory and stuff like that. As the Russians will say, we want land too. They want the entire country. But yeah, then the Ukrainians or the Romanians at this point come in and say, we want this much territory from you. And then they say to the Greeks, we want this much territory from you. Yeah, an absurd amount. Just get rid of the military alliance layer. Yeah, they want an absurd amount. And now to the Russians, they kind of do what they did to the Ukrainians or the Romanians. They want their entire country. So yeah, just keep pressing, just keep pressing, just keep pressing. Boom. So yeah, this is kind of what the world looks like now. China is broken up into different pieces. South America is in shambles and in colonies. So if we just like highlight everything, this is the Vietnamese, the this. I'm pretty sure this used to be Thailand territory, which is now it's not. We get southern India, then we get northern India, then obviously we get Iran, and then these other countries, and then we got all of France, which they still own quite a little bit of territory down in the Australian lands. But we have Greece claiming this much despite not bordering any of the oceans. Then we get England, and then South China or North China. Which, by the way, I'm just gonna fix this up real quick, as they don't get in a colony anymore. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Also, the Irish. They've lived for so long, but due to the what they did to the Scottish and World War One, that they're just gonna they're gonna disappear along with the. So yeah. So yeah, we kind of just see them annex all of this down over here, which then the rest of this goes to that. And this colony kind of gets split up, as they will take over this, and the Scottish will take over that. So yeah, the French. Oh no, we need to create a stability layer. I swear, because the French, they're kind of. This is what the religion layer looks like for the blue religion, kind of spread out everywhere. Then we get the Floridan one. Then we obviously get the Korean one, which I'll get to in a second. But then we got that one, that one, that one, and that one. And speaking of this religion, there's kind of a difficulty between Iran and Greece, Saudi Arabia. Let me just go to the actual country layer. Iran, Greece, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Russia, and Central Asia. Let me just show you how big they would be if they had all united. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, one continuous nation around Iran. One continuous coalition against Iran. So yeah, if it looked like this, a colony down here, which I believe they should control, right? Yeah, they're kind of surrounded by the Greeks. Let me just. So yeah, there's kind of a little bit of a conflict between the two as we just fully highlight Iran. They're getting rid of a lot of the minorities here. They're getting rid of this minority. So yeah, they kind of just like push it out right there, which they continue to do. Where it's mostly just the Greek religion. Which, if I remember correctly, I said if they had pushed into the Greek religion, pushed them out, forced them out, or whatever, you would be declared war on. And they kind of pushed it a little too far, where we will see next episode a little bit of fighting. I'm not going to show a little bit of fighting now, but um, I could, but I won't. But we will finally see these countries up here go in a little bit of a tri-sector war. Though the Polish are constantly watching the Russians, saying, like, if you invade into Finland, we're declaring war on you. And obviously, since the coalition is not one attack all alliance, it's only to surround the Iranians. They can't request help for them unless they really want to. So we will see the Finnish declare war. That's what I'm going to call them. We will see the Finnish declare war on to both of these countries, which the Swedish, thinking that this was Norway declaring war, they kind of just roll troops in. Now Norway is like, hold on, we didn't do nothing to you, but they're asking for proof. And it turned out it was true. They were going to invade into them, but they didn't invade into them yet. Yet is a keyword. But we see the Swedish getting pushed back heavily. This area all the way up here getting not as pushed back, but still there's quite a bit left. we will see the Finnish quickly begin to take around this much territory away from the Swedish before they will quickly push them back, and at this point where they are completely surrounded, and they will try to separate the two cities, which they do very successfully, which at this point they will completely regain those two cities, killing the soldiers alive or capturing and holding them hostage. Which sounds cruel, but it is very, very in this nature during this time period. But now we will see finally Norway doing something about it, where they will completely push back the Finnish all the way up here, where they will now completely begin to push into this territory. So yeah, after a lot of back and forth, they realize it is basically a win or lose situation, or lose-lose situation, as since it's basically like this and it's a trisector war, it's going to be a very hard war to fight and to win for either side. So instead, they'll just end up doing the peace treaty a little bit early, but we do see a lot of land exchanges coming from both sides, or all three sides of the war, because this is how the war ended. After quite a bit, we'll actually see the Finnish actually gain a bunch of territory from Sweden and from Norway, as you can tell, though the Norwegians didn't really beat them back a whole lot. They still managed to get quite a bit of land from both sides. So now we'll move on to the peace treaty of this war. Yep. Just came back from the peace treaty, and this is what I decided to come up with. Now, the shortest amount of land that was taken from the Finnish was from the Norwegians, which they gained around that much territory, keeping that straightforward. The second most land taken would be from the Norwegians to the Swedish, and then we see the Finnish just taking both of these territories right there, which grows them even more populous and grows them even stronger. And oh yeah, we gotta get rid of this capital. And also Cyprus. It has been a country for quite a long time, but we will actually see the Greeks just boom. Yeah, I'm just not gonna go over the war. I'm just gonna say they got easily taken over. Yeah. But now we will see these areas all the way down here, which, by the way, I should definitely remove a lot of these cities down here, because this feels way too populated for this region. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. But now we will see not a whole lot of things happen, except for down here. We will see a union between these two countries down over here, which will be underneath the beige gold team, and they'll just place their capital with the old gold capital, which will look like that. And yeah, that's kind of about it. And not a whole lot of things we can do until next episode, which I hope you all enjoyed. And peace out.